In this video, you'll learn how to get started with using dbt to run data transformations in your data warehouse. dbt stands for Data Build Tool, a framework to streamline data transformation workflow created by dbt Lab. You can use dbt to modularize and centralize your analytics codebase. I have noticed that dbt has grown rapidly the past couple years. And companies like Snowflake, Microsoft, Salesforce, Shopify are some of the big players use dbt to streamline their data pipelines. There are two different dbt products offered by dbt Lab: dbt Core, an open source Python library run via the command line, and dbt Cloud, which is cloud-based. This tutorial will focus on using dbt Core and is beginner-friendly. I will cover every single step. dbt supports a variety of database systems like Snowflake, Postgres, BigQuery, Databricks. For the database system, I will be using Google's BigQuery, which has a very generous free tier. For the prerequisites, it's important you have some experience working with Git, Python, and command line tool. In terms of the benefits using dbt, it's SQL-based, which allows data analysts to write data transformations using SQL, a language they're already familiar with. This lowers the barrier to entry, enabling more team members to contribute to data transformation processes without the need for specialized programming skills. With dbt, you can version control your transformations using Git. This means every change is tracked, and you can easily revert to previous versions if something goes wrong. dbt encourages a modular approach to building transformations. You can create reusable models and macros, making your codebase more maintainable and reducing duplication. This modularity accelerates development and simplifies maintenance. One of dbt's core features is the ability to incorporate data tests. By defining tests for your data models, you can ensure data quality and catch issues early in the pipeline, leading to more reliable data outputs. And lastly, dbt automatically generates documentation for your data models. This documentation feature is interactive and can be shared across the organization, making it easier for everyone to understand the data pipeline and transformations. In terms of the drawbacks, for people who are not familiar with Git or software development practices, the learning curve can be steep. Adopting dbt requires a shift in mindset towards treating data transformations as code, which can be challenging initially. Another drawback I think is dependency management. Managing dependencies between dbt models can become complex, especially in large projects. Understanding and resolving these dependencies requires careful planning and can sometimes lead to messy pipeline structure. Lastly, running dbt transformations can be resource intensive, especially for large data sets. This can lead to increased costs and longer processing times, requiring optimization and efficient resource management. To get started with dbt, we first need to create a Python virtual environment dedicated to the dbt project. Choose a directory to store the dbt project files. Launch a terminal and run the command python-m venv followed by the environment name tutorial dbt. cd into the project directory and activate the environment. Run the command pip install dbt core dbt BigQuery to install the dbt Python packages. To check if dbt core is installed successfully, run the command dbt -- version. The next step is to set up BigQuery. If you already set up a BigQuery dataset and download a service account file, you can skip this part. Navigate to console.cloud.google.com. Click the drop-down on the top, then click New Project. Give the Google Cloud project a name and click Create. Once project is created, click Select Project. In the navigation menu, click BigQuery. Click Enable to enable BigQuery API. Create a blank query and run the SQL statement showing on the screen to ensure you have access to dbt tutorial data set. The next step is to create a service account and download the service account file. In the navigation menu, go to APIs and Services and click Credentials. Click Create Credentials on the top and choose Service Account. Give the service account a name. Click Create and Continue. Choose the appropriate role to the service account. For demonstration purpose, I'm going to choose Owner. Click Done to create the service account. Now we need to download the service account file for dbt to connect to the BigQuery database. Click the service account you just created. On the top, click Keys, then go to Add Key and click Create New Key. Select JSON as the key type and click Create. Save the service account file in your project folder. Also, it's recommended that you rename the service account name to something easy to recognize. Open a new instance of File Explorer and navigate to the users directory. In the user directory, you should see a hidden folder called .dbt. In the folder, create a YAML file called profiles. The profiles file is a configuration file that defines how dbt connects to your data warehouse. You can define multiple connection profiles to different database systems. In the profiles file, copy the profile detail showing on the screen. Tutorial dbt is the dbt project name, which we will create in the next part. Target defines the profile you want to use. Currently, we only have one profile called dev. Go back to the BigQuery console and create a dataset called MyDataset. Now we're done setting up the BigQuery environment. The next step is to create a dbt project. To create a dbt project in a terminal, run the command dbt init followed by the project name. Because I already manually created my profiles file, I am going to type N to not overwrite my existing profiles. cd into the dbt project directory. In the Python virtual environment, dbt will create a project directory dedicated to the dbt project. When initialize a dbt project, dbt will create a number of folders and files for different tasks. For this lesson, I will focus on the models folder and the dbt project file. I will go over the rest in separate videos. The models directory is used to store SQL files that define your models. A model in dbt is essentially a SQL select statement to be converted into either a table or a view in your data warehouse. The dbt project YAML file, on the other hand, is a configuration file for your dbt project. It contains settings and configurations that define how BT should operate within your project. Here under the Models section, the structure defines how models will get created in each directory or for a specific file. Go into the Models folder. Inside the folder, you should see a folder called Example. In the Example folder, there are two SQL files, which are your models. The schema file is used to define metadata, tests, and documentation for your models, sources, and seeds, which I will cover in more details on a separate video. Here I want to test the database connection by running the command dbt debug. If the connection settings are configured correctly in the profiles, you should see the green light all checks pass. Otherwise, it will give you an error message explaining the issue. To convert dbt models into tables and views, in your terminal, run the command dbt run. During the dbt run, dbt reads the SQL files in the models directory, compiles them into executable SQL queries, and runs these queries against your data warehouse to create or update the data sets. The file name is going to be the table name. Once the transformation job is finished, refresh the data set, and you should see a table and a view got created from the SQL model files. Now you can run a select statement to query against the data models. Let's go through another example. Go ahead, delete the example folder. Create a SQL file called customers. In the SQL file, copy the SQL statement showing on the screen. Here we are creating a customer summary table derived from customers and orders table. Go back to the terminal and run the dbt run command. A view called customers will get created based from the customers model file. If you want to change how a model will be materialized in the dbt project file, use the materialize property to set the materialization type. You can also set the materialization in the SQL file by using the config function. Here, I'm getting a compilation error. That's because when I execute the dbt run command, it's going to try to drop a view, which is the default, instead of a table. To fix that, run the dbt run command with a full refresh flag, and it will force dbt to drop the model as a table and completely rebuild the model. And that's everything for this dbt tutorial. Please don't forget to like the video. And for more dbt tutorials, don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next lesson.